Chatter, the voice inside our head and how to harness it by Ethan Kross. That's the book we're going to be speaking about, reviewing and summarizing in today's video. So without much further ado, let's get started. Chatter in our head is a pretty interesting phenomenon, and I stumbled upon this book I think on Goodreads, where this was I think awarded as the best non-fiction / self-help book the last year, I think 2022. And I thought, okay, hey, I haven't even heard about this book, it's not famous on the YouTube community, so let me just pick it up. And I was very fascinated by the differences and the techniques used in this book to harness our inner voice. So we're going to be speaking about three aspects. One, about introspection and what is the difference between introspection and chatter, and how can you harness the power of your chatter inside your head. So first up, we need to understand what is introspection, right? So introspection is the ability of our mind to learn, interpret and harness the power of our past experiences, right? For example, you'd have done some great things in your career, you'd have done some great stuff on your personal life. So mind has the ability to constantly reflect on these things and make better decisions going forward in the future, right? So introspection is great, is a great quality, and that is what separates us from a lot of other living species on this planet Earth. But it's very important to kind of understand the difference between introspection and chatter. So is every voice that you hear in your head great? Probably not. So here is where the difference between introspection and chatter comes in. So introspection lets you see things at a whole perspective, whereas chatter just focuses on a few negative emotions or negative cycle of talks that keeps going on in your mind. What does this do? So chatter ensures that you're focusing on 1, 2 or 3 things from the overall experience, and more often than not these tend to be negative experiences. So this one narrows our focus, kind of strings our perspective on things, and finally ensures that makes you believe that things aren't going well at all, right? So how often have we been in situations where 1 or 2 things go wrong, doesn't go according to our plan, and we start second guessing everything that we do. I have been in a lot of these situations before, and that's what chatter in our head starts doing, where it makes us question every little decision we take rather than making things or looking at things from a logical perspective. For example, I would like to quote 2 small examples, and I hope you're able to relate to it. So I been playing badminton for a very long time, and for the longest time, when we would come into crunch situations where the opponents and us are in toe-to-toe points and things like that, suddenly I have a voice in my head where I keep telling, hey, don't lob the cork, or just try to place it here, try to place it there, and then suddenly this voice gets louder as every every rally, and I end up losing the point, and I'm suddenly thinking, hey, what just happened there? You're suddenly starting to second guess how you stand, how you're holding the racket, what you're doing and things like that, not realizing that we have been doing or have been playing badminton for like over 5, 6, 10 years now, and then I need not be second guessing so much, rather than I could have just focused on the rally, right? Similarly, I had a journey in my YouTube video where suddenly I felt like, what, maybe I'm not good with my story writing, or maybe I shouldn't be using these words and things like that. And along with the nervousness that I have, now I start to second guess, oh my god, okay, am I using this word more prominently than the others? Am I using too much of knows? And I'm suddenly going into zooming my focus on 1 or 2 things because of the chatter inside my head, rather than focusing on the broader picture. And that's the effect of chatter, and as a result, what ends up happening is you end up second guessing all your decisions and start going down that negative spiral. So now that we've understood the differences between chatter and introspection, we just need to see, hey, how can we harness the power of chatter, right? And this author kind of Ethan Kross discusses a ton of technique. I'm probably just going to be highlighting 5 or 6 of the techniques that are discussed in this book and that have personally benefited me a lot. So this discusses about how can you harness chatter for you, what to do when someone else is going through these mental demons in their head. Again, by no means I'm a mental health expert, but I'm just discussing the stuff that are written in this book and how you can harness it to your advantage. So technique number 1, creating a mental distance, right? So this is by far has been the most beneficial technique for me, where you're creating a mental distance between yourself and the chatter inside your head, right? Because more often than not, we are just focusing on one minor thing through this chatter, instead of asking why am I distracted, you can ask, hey, why is Praveen distracted? Instead of saying, hey, why am I not able to finish this point, you can ask, why is Praveen not able to finish this point? Because when you create this mental distance between you and your thoughts and yourself, you're able to gain a much broader perspective. Maybe it is because, hey, the opponent played that point too well. Maybe because you're genuinely tired and exhausted. So once you create that mental distance, you're logically able to reason out with yourself on why you're not able to do certain things, as opposed to you giving heed to that chatter and then you're trying to reason out everything, because more often than not, when the chatter is going on, you're just suffering inside your head and you're not able to come to a logical conclusion at all. So that's the first one. Second one, imagine advising a friend, right? So this has been like a game changer and so stupidly simple that I keep thinking, why did I not think of it earlier, right? So how often have our friends been in the same situation as us and we are far good at giving them advice and us not following it when we are in the same situation, right? For example, let's say, again, taking a very random example, let's say your friend is out searching for a job. We're great at giving them advice and, hey, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do, this is what how you should approach the interviews and things like that. But when we are in the same stressful situation, we seldom follow these advices. Similarly, when we are playing a game, we tell our friends, hey, you should have done this, you should have done that, and seldom we follow that advice. The reason why we are able to give that advice to our friends and we ourselves are not able to follow is because we have that emotional detachment with our friend. Even though we are very invested in their success, what they do and stuff like that, we are not the one, our judgments are not clouded by the emotions and the situation that they are going through. Hence, we are able to take a very, very logical approach. So whenever you have these mental chatter that are like troubling you, always think about, hey, if your friend were going through this, what would you advise them? And are you kind of replicating or doing the things that you would tell your friend, right? And this has immensely helped me because human mind being human mind, I have a lot of these thoughts that come up and I always think, okay, you know what, this is what I would tell my friend and this is what I'm going to do myself. Third tip, broaden your perspective, right? More often than not, friends, human mind remembers only short-term things. So for example, I'm sure you would have handled more tricky situations, more difficult situations and things like that in your life, and you would have overcome that successfully. But human mind is such that we only remember about things that are happening to us now. So what this tip is basically you thinking about all the hardships you've overcome over time to gain strength from your own past activities and helping you broaden your perspective about things around us. For example, you could also think about, hey, what are the other stuff the other person is going through and how much better of a situation I am in and things like that. So this has broadly made me more grateful and made me filled with gratitude for the things that I have, and makes my problem kind of seem a bit more small compared to the other stuff. Hence, I'm able to tackle it with much more ease. Again, this requires some amount of practice, some amount of perspective, but trust me, it helps me a lot once you master it. Tip number 4, interpret your body's chatter response. And this has been something that I have personally gone through, where whenever I give big presentations, I have these butterflies in my tummy. I suddenly start becoming very aware of my heartbeat. I'm suddenly realizing how my hands are moving and things like that. So instead of just interpreting them as fear, start interpreting them as excitement. So you can tell your mind that, hey, whenever I'm excited, my heartbeat just starts beating faster. My tummy has butterflies and my hands move a bit. So instead of telling your mind that it's fear, you can tell that it's excitement. For example, whenever I'm in a crunch point, going back to the story that I narrated, so I can say, hey, you know what? It's great that we have brought the game so close, so I'm excited to finish this now. So instead of me getting nervous in crunch situations, now I can turn the crunch situations into an excitement. So start interpreting the reactions your body gives from negative to positive ones. And again, this is going to take a lot of self-talk, but in the long run, trust me, you're all going to love the result of all this. The fifth and the final tip that I am personally implementing is journaling, right? Because journaling at times helps you give a perspective of what were you thinking when you took a decision. And this is something that a lot of decision-making books recommend as well, where you need to make decisions from a point of awareness as opposed to what you're going through at that point of time. So for example, when you're journaling, you're very aware of why you took a certain decision, as opposed to what decision you took, because we give ourselves a very very hard time on the decisions we take. Little do we remember on why we took those decisions. So probably start dumping all your inner chatter into a journal, and then you will be surprised at the amount of mental clarity you have just by dumping down thoughts. So no fancy prompts, no fancy this thing. Open your notepad, just write whatever is in your mind until a point where your mind stops having those voices inside your head, and you'll be very very surprised at how you can silence the chatter inside your head just by journaling for long enough time whenever there is a lot of chatter. So these are the 5 techniques that I have been using to harness the power of my inner chatter, and this is a great practical and a very very easy read. So I would highly recommend you start reading this book if you're someone like me who's constantly bogged down by the chatter inside our head. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if there is any other book you would like to see on this channel, do let me know. Until I see you in the next video, this is Praveen Ramesh signing off.